Sarah J. Maas. I get it. I'm at the end of chapter 3, and I get it. Could someone please kill this Duke? Because apparently all these authors, not just this one, need to learn how to interweave B plot, C plot, D plot to make the story interesting and not take you out of it. Hello friend. Something you may or may not know about me is when a book, a movie, a video game, if one of those things is super popular, super talked about, like everyone's acting like it's amazing, I avoid that thing like the plague. Preferably forever, but sometimes just for a few years, because I kind of want the hype to die down before I look into it. Because when everyone's talking about something is like amazing, it's really hard for me to believe that it's actually amazing. Because maybe it's just amazing because everyone's talking about it and everyone's liking it and everyone feels connected to it in some way. And so because of that, it's amazing and not because the actual work is amazing. You see what I'm saying? An author I've been avoiding is Sarah J. Maas because she has a couple of series, but the series that has fairies and apparently gets a little spicy in book 3 and throughout the rest of that series, it wasn't the most appealing thing to me. I like fantasy, but I don't necessarily love like the fairy stuff, and so right away I was just like, I'm gonna not pick that up, I'm not interested, whatever, right? And now, years later, after all that series is done, and there's another series that's mostly done, and another series that's done, I might be a little bit more interested, or a little bit more open. I didn't think I was, but a couple of weeks ago, I was walking outside, talking on the phone to one of my friends, and she, unfortunately, has suddenly been very interested in picking up that fairy series. And so I kind of was like making fun of her, like, how dare you go for something that's basic and boring and popular and whatever. And of course, I was about to be knocked right on my own face because as I was walking, I passed one of those free little libraries. You know, the ones that are just out in the middle of nowhere. And I go up to this little book box. I'm still on the phone with her, like basically telling her Sarah J. Maas is basic and boring and they're not even good and like all this like negative stuff, right? And what is right in front of my face when I open that book box? Of course, it's a Sarah J. Maas book. Now, to be fair, this is not part of that fairy series that I was like, I'm not interested in it at all. So I pick it up. I might as well like read the first paragraph of the back. Like, maybe I should give these things a chance. In a land without magic, an assassin is summoned to the castle. She has no love for the vicious king who rules from his throne of glass, but she has not come to kill him. She has come to win her freedom. If she defeats 23 murderers, thieves, and warriors in a competition, she will be released from prison to serve as the king's champion. That was enough to be like, this is a sign. I was literally just talking about how I don't like this author, even though I don't know anything about this author. This is not the series that I would be more likely to dislike. It's literally me getting a book for free. I should at least give it a chance, right? After a too long moment, the crown prince spoke. I don't quite comprehend why you'd force someone to bow when the purpose of the gesture is to display allegiance and respect. His words were coated with glorious boredom. I'm only in chapter 4, and she has, in her mind, thought about ways to kill, like, her guard and the prince and others so many times. So many times. She's telling me how she would kill all these people around her. I'm trying to figure out if I like that or not, because part of me is like, you know what? You go, girl. They put you in prison. They're trapping you. They're treating you poorly. Go for it. And the rest of me is like, it's interesting you're naming what you want. I mean, it's in her head, but like putting it there and then be like, no, not yet. Not yet. I think if I was a prisoner like that, I'd be like, if I had the opportunity, I would take it, and then I don't think I would wait for an even better opportunity, you know? My most true assassin. Enclosed are 7 books from my personal library that I've recently read and enjoyed immensely. You are, of course, free to read as many of the books in the castle library as you wish, but I command you read these first so that we might discuss them. I promise they are not dull, for I'm not one inclined to sit through pages of nonsense and bloated speech, though perhaps you enjoy works and authors who think very highly of themselves. Most affectionately, the Prince. Hi friend, I just wanted to check in with you. It is now day 2. I've been reading Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I'm on like the first full real page of chapter 16. And here's the thing. I can appreciate you reading a book, and as the book goes on, you learn more and more about the world, more and more about the characters. You have to kind of wait to learn things. Okay, fine. However, this doesn't just feel like it's the beginning of a series, but it kind of feels like it's the beginning of a book. And I feel like if I've read to chapter 16 in a book, I've put in enough work, enough effort, enough energy to not feel like I'm at the beginning of a book. We don't really know what's going on in the castle. We don't really know what's going on with the prince. We don't know why people are dying in random ways, kind of grotesque random ways. We don't know much about the other champions except for like 2 other ones, and I feel like one of them is the person that's going to be killed off in like a really horrible, dramatic, like sad way, because they're just there to end up dying. That's how I'm feeling right now, and that's kind of sad and predictable. Okay, so at the beginning of this book, the prince was like in a lot of things. He was doing a lot of things. He was there 100% of the time, right? And then he has to go away. Okay, fine, whatever. He's not talking to her at all. Fair. But now he's come back into the story, and the first time he sees the main girl again after being gone, well, was gone and then he was there but was busy in like meetings and whatever, right? The first interaction he has after not seeing her in a long time feels a little too forced. We know he's young and attractive and looking for a relationship. We know that she is young and relatively attractive, but she's been through a lot, so she has bruising and scarring and like things about her physical appearance that are healing. For him to be gone for so long, and then the first time they see each other again, for him to be so aggressive and assertive and in her face and kind of trying to talk to her in a way that can be seen as like inappropriate, it feels a little forced. I think they both might have, from a aesthetic standpoint, liked each other, but I don't have actual proof that they actually like each other beyond, oh, that's an attractive person. Oh, that's an attractive person. You know what I mean? So that is disappointing to me because I'm like, you need more than that to be in a romantic relationship with someone. I don't know if I see them actually together and growing together, because the prince is gonna be required to live a certain lifestyle, and I don't think this girl wants that lifestyle. And then the other love interest is the prince's best friend, who is training the main character for this tournament. And well, that love story, right now at least, is kind of one-sided. I could actually see them together in a lot of ways where I don't really believe the prince and her, like, at all. Beyond, like, oh, they might look cute together. And that's not a good foundation for a long-lasting relationship. It's just not. And he, like, at one point in his head said that she was, like, pretty or beautiful. But beyond that, he's not, like, really, or at least so far, he hasn't really been expressing a ton of interest. So it's kind of interesting, like, oh yeah, I thought she was pretty. You did? When? How? Who? So right after she talks about wanting to kiss the prince, he, ha ha ha, the other guy comes in, of course, and they have this really dramatic fight, and all I can think is they would actually be so much better together, because they actually know things about each other. They actually care for each other. They actually, at least right now, I'd so much rather her be with someone she actually works well with and actually knows something about than, oh, this other guy just because he's pretty. Hi friend. So I just finished this book. Overall, I liked the book. Overall, I enjoyed my experience reading the book. However, at the exact same time, normally when I finish the first book in a series, I am longing for, I am needing, I am aching, I am in mourning, I am desiring to read the second book. And if I don't have the second book in my hands within like 48 hours, I will be slowly dying in the corner, right? That's true of most series. It's not true of this one. This I'm like, eh. Like, we already knew the king was evil. We already knew that Duke was evil. We already knew that that girl that was a little weird wanted more power, and so in some ways was probably evil because she was willing to go about getting power in sketchy ways. And yes, we find out later that part of the reason she acted the way she acted was because of something out of her control and something she did not consent to. However, even the reason that that thing worked was because she already wanted power. She already wanted prestige. She already wanted attention. So just because there was something going on that's sketchy behind the scenes that she didn't know about, doesn't mean that she wouldn't have been a good character if that thing didn't happen. So at the end of the book, we're in a place where we can't fully trust the king. We can't fully trust the duke. The prince is disappointed because the main character has decided that if she's gonna work for the king, she can't really be with the prince, at least not right now. So he's kind of all sad and lonely and acting a little pathetic at the end. The king's guard is like the other love interest, and he's like really happy that she can't be with the prince, but he's also not like actively trying to get her. At least at the end of this book. I think he will get to a point where he does, but right now he's like, eh. Like, he's just happy that the prince is kind of being pushed out of the picture a little bit. At the end of this book, there is an excerpt from the next book. And let me tell you, I started to read that excerpt. I don't care. It's not interesting enough. It's not intriguing enough, which is interesting because, like I said, this was a good book for me. I enjoyed this book. There were so many things in this book that did take me out of the story, which is another thing I want to talk about next. But overall, I did like the book. So, like, I'm not trying to hate on this book because I actually did like it. However, I'm not compelled to continue the series the way that I normally would be after finishing a first book. After most first books, I'm dying to read the next book. Dying. Literal death of the soul. And this is just like, eh. Like, everything that we kind of were given at the beginning, was true at the end. The only thing we might have learned is why certain things happened, or how the characters that were already sketchy, how they were actually sketchier than we initially maybe assumed, right? Or they're more evil than we maybe assumed, but we didn't learn anything major at the end of this book. And even in the excerpt for the next book, where we find that she's working for the king, but has like a secret mission on the side, even that we didn't learn anything new, because we knew her intentions going into working for the king, how she wanted to do what he said, but also like she has her own agenda. So, like, we didn't learn anything with that either. Like, that wasn't okay. There were so many times in this book where it felt like something was supposed to be like a reveal. Like, oh my gosh, wow, oh my gosh, really? Oh my gosh, right? And every time I'm like, that feels like it should be a reveal. Like it was supposed to be a reveal. But I kind of knew that already. Like, it wasn't surprising or shocking or scary or weird or strange. And yeah, maybe it's just because books like this are very predictable to me, which is part of the reason I kind of was scared going into this, because everyone was like, this is so awesome and amazing. And maybe for people that don't read fantasy often, it would be. But for someone that reads fantasy or knows how fantasy goes, it wasn't. It was kind of predictable. It was kind of boring. And forgive me, because like I said, I still enjoyed this book. I really did it, and I don't want to hate on this. But the one thing that was disappointing to me, and I think disappointing to a lot of people who want to like get back into reading, but all like the fantasy popular books have this issue. It's not just this author or this book. The issue, I'm gonna say, is a lot of these authors who are writing popular books right now are struggling to write an A plot that's super strong, and then interweaving a B plot, a C plot, a D plot. And because they struggle so much to interweave like a B plot and a C plot into the A plot, it makes the book feel less than. This isn't just this book's problem. This is a lot of popular books on the market right now. Is authors need to go back to basics and strengthen their A plot and be able to interweave a B plot, a C plot, a D plot, and etc. And here's the thing. Good stories don't need B, C, D plots. They don't. You can have an A plot and it's the best, and just an A plot, and it's the best story ever. So you don't even need B plot, C plot, D plot. But if you're going to have B plot, C plot, D plot, it needs to be so interwoven into the story that I don't see it coming from a mile away. In fact, in this particular book, there was like 2 or 3 points where the author literally had to tell us, hey, B plot is walking down the hill and will be arriving in like 5 minutes. Oh, B plot's around the corner, you should be looking out for it. No, those things should be so interwoven that I don't notice, or I barely notice them like entering the scene, entering the stage, right? Waiting in the wings, I shouldn't realize when they enter the stage. And like I said, it isn't just this book, it is so many books. It is so many books. Like, I can make 6 videos, hour-long videos, telling you why this is so important and this is so noticeable to a reader. It takes you out of the story. It is so frustrating. And before you're like, well, these are popular books. These are more simplistic books. These books are just to get people back into reading, right? And then once they start reading, they might try to read something more complex, right? Or this is for a younger audience, and so they won't know, they won't notice. Let me tell you something. One of my favorite series ever is written for children, but still holds up to the point that every 2 years I either start my year or finish my year reading this particular series, because it is that good. I'm an adult reading a children's series that is like, it's still, yes, it's for children, so yes, the writing is for a younger audience. The vocabulary is for a younger audience. Some of the ideas are for a younger audience. But there's so much, it's so beautifully well written that I can still enjoy it as an adult and still get something out of it as an adult, because this particular author, the one thing that they do amazingly is taking A plot, interweaving B plot, interweaving C plot, interweaving D plot, and you barely notice that, like, it's happening. And because it's a series, they don't only do it in one book, they do it throughout a whole series. And so not only do you get this really in-depth look at the main character, like you see not just one aspect of her life, you get to see all these different aspects of her life, because there are multiple storylines going on in the same book, but you get to see like the interworkings and multiple facets of like the main side characters as well. And like any character that has a name and is in the book for more than like 3 or 4 pages suddenly gets character development. You suddenly get to see more than one perspective of their life. And because of that, it is a work of art. Because apparently all these authors, not just this one, need to learn how to interweave B plot, C plot, D plot. This story could have been so much better if I wasn't being pushed out of it. And that's part of the reason I'm not like super intrigued to continue the series. Even though I like the story. I like the idea. I just think the execution is lacking. And here's the thing. I still like the book. I think a lot of this was good. It was enjoyable. But it wasn't enjoyable enough to get me to read the whole series. And that kind of makes me sad. Because I spent a lot of time reading this book. And I do kind of want to know who she actually ends up with in the end. But I don't think I want to read another 400 plus pages to find out. And there's multiple books in this series, so it wouldn't be just for another 400 pages. Frustration.